Hey, welcome to Voice for All. I am your host, Jamila Gamble. I trust your week has been well. I love hearing from you guys. If you ever want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at MissJamPCCS. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/MissJamGamble. Make sure you connect and don't forget to use the hashtags RogersTVPeel and hashtag S5AVFA. So, on the Voice for All, as you know, we talk a lot about disability awareness and education. That's exactly what our show is about. But one thing we've never really touched base on is mental health. And within mental health, invisible disabilities. There's a lot of people who work amongst us, our neighbors, they're our friends, who are going through a lot in life that often we do not know about. But fortunately, there's actually people in our communities who are making a difference and trying to bring more awareness to such an important cause. So, Annie Melnik, how are you?
I'm good.
And I actually met you a couple of weeks ago when you were singing The Lion King.
I was chatting around, yeah.
You were, but you're way more than Lion King. You're beyond that.
Oh, none of us are more than Lion King.
That's true. That's true. I'll be Simba, and you could be Mufasa for now.
Okay, I'm down.
In character. I'm bringing you on today, like I said in my intro, to talk about invisible disabilities, specifically mental health. But people might wonder how you even got into this kind of topic per se. Can you give us a little bit of insight as to what brought you here?
Sure, yeah. I suppose unfortunate circumstances really brought me into talking about this and sort of, wanting to bring this to the forefront. Like you said, I wish that it wasn't invisible because it may have saved my brother's life if it was. We lost my brother to suicide 3 years ago. And it was just such a short battle that he had, and some of us might say that the system failed us, or whatever you want to do. No one can point fingers. We lost him, and that wasn't fair. But it is important that we continue on his fight, and that people aren't experiencing that same thing. No family should have to go through that if it can be avoided, right? So, I'm actually in an event management program at Humber, and we were tasked with coming up with a final project event, and we wanted to support the CAMH Foundation, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, and wanted to discuss mental health, bring it to the forefront by using performance art, actually.
So before we get into that event, I want to kind of save that a little bit. Prior to your brother and this event, did you have any kind of understanding of mental health and groups like CAMH and certain initiatives that our community is doing?
Growing up, honestly, not really. It wasn't something that was talked about very often, or maybe not even in the right contexts. But I was a Don, like a resident assistant in university at the University of Waterloo, and there was heavy focus on being aware about what is happening with our students and how to be aware of the issues they may face, in their families, in their academics, personal life, and try to just keep mental health as something we can talk about with them, open door policy and that kind of thing. So I really started to think about how our mental health affects our daily life when I got to university, and when I was dealing with taking care of 70 students who were, riding the roller coaster of first year.
Which is such a life-altering kind of experience.
Absolutely.
From your side of things, what types of issues were you seeing that some of these students are going through?
I mean, this is university is a whole new barrel of stress, right? You're facing all these new kinds of assignments. You're facing a schedule you could never have planned for yourself. And you're coming into contact with tons of different people from all over. And if you're entering university with social skills that aren't defined, and you're not finding yourself to, you're not finding it easy to blend. Those are things that are going to bring about, mental illness and that sort of thing. People are facing sexual orientation questions and all these sorts of things, and just, parenting, family stuff that's coming out that, just needed to be resolved before they left, but they didn't know that was something they were.
So experiencing what you experienced then and knowing what you know now, what advice would you have for university students who are going through the circle of life of university and aren't exactly going through it smoothly?
I guess it really just depends on the case, right? But if there ever is an opportunity to just talk and to lean on each other and lean on people that are in your situation, just to remind yourself that you're not alone, right? I do feel that empathy and experience and support is just so important. And if you're in a position where there's probably somebody else on your floor or in your class who's facing the same thing as you, and if it takes one conversation to create a partnership, an alliance between you and someone else, or you and everyone else, then you know, I think that can just be so valuable to that
Something
experience.
so easy that's so impactful.
You would think, right?
So now fast forward to your program, your events management.
Event management, yeah.
When you were assigned this project, was this the first thing that came to mind for you?
It was, but I didn't want to make it. I didn't want to make it about me or my story or my brother. You know, it's just that's something my family said. It's just, you know, we don't want to make him this poster boy, right? It's just something that we want as sort of a track that runs inside your head, and that sort of just informs the way that you communicate with people. But you know, we sat in our group of 8 that we'd just been assigned with, and we were supposed to kind of go around and talk about different charities that we might want to support and the reasons why. And just everyone who was speaking up was, you know, someone had said maybe an eating disorder clinic, Sheena's Place, we could support. And as we went around, a lot of things just people were talking about mental health. It was something that our group was in support of. So I thought, you know what, okay. So I told the story about what my family had been through, and we all just had this great, you know, group like cry bond session, and everyone said, okay, we have to do this, and we have to do this for Paul. And that's just kind of where it started, and everyone was just really great and supportive.
So how did everything manifest?
So kind of the base of it was, you know, who knows what it could do if you could be empathetic towards the experience of mental illness, and how better to do that than to, you know, access people on the most human and emotional level of, you know, in my opinion, is performance art. You know, you can sit at a YouTube and go through commercials of people dancing and singing, or you're going to a concert and you are just in tears, or you're laughing, or just the most emotional that you feel, I think, is at times when you are exposed to performance art of some kind.
Yeah.
And that message is communicated to you with hardly any words at all sometimes. So what we wanted to do was to design a show where we could give people, you know, sort of the experience, right? You know, someone has a broken arm, they come with a cast, everyone knows, okay, don't throw the football at Johnny's right arm, he can't catch it, right? So how do we transfer that into a world where people are living with mental illness, right? How do we know to not throw the ball to them? So we designed this show. It was about a fictional character named Erin. And it followed her experience of mental illness from her entering into university, like we said, such a you know, crazy time.
Yeah.
And it followed her for a year. And the way we illustrated this was, we used kind of similar to the way the movie Inside Out does it, where they
I was thinking of that.
Yeah, so the characters inside her mind. So you never actually met the character who was Erin, but we had 2 characters who lived inside her mind, was light and dark. And this whole show took place inside her mind, which was the stage. So each scene we had a voiceover that explained, kind of set the tone, set the scene, what's happening right now. And then we had a monologue, either light or dark, or a conversation between them where you would see kind of what is happening right now inside her mind. And then immediately following, we had a performance of some kind that would help to illustrate that emotion that we were trying to get across. And, you know, depending on the type of mental illness that you're experiencing, highly emotionally dysregulated. So that is what we were sort of trying to instill.
I love how you said the type, because it's not just one, you know, it's not one way, one emotion, one way to fix it or talk about it. It's many, many ways. Now, after the show was done, what feedback did you get from people?
Overwhelmingly positive. You know, there's a lot of educators there. There were several classmates who were just, you know, I couldn't believe how connected I felt to Erin when I watched the contemporary dance after the voiceover of her, you know, her suicide letter that she'd written to her parents. You know, and, you know, all we said was that, and then, you know, Emily danced Erin's emotion to the audience, right? So we had people connecting with hers, or the violinist, or the tap dancers who were illustrating her joy. You know, exactly what we wanted happened, right? So, you know, there's a principal in the London District Catholic School Board who is there, who I have known since my childhood, and she's there and saying, how are we going to get this into grade 12 classrooms? We need kids to see this, and, you know, I think it needs to be, you know, it's the next thing that will be educated, that kids will be educated about, you know, bullying and that kind of thing. We're first in leadership and all those things, and I connected so much to the motivational speakers who came to speak to us in high school. I think the next subject is mental health. I think that it's a subject they can handle,
Yeah.
and I think it's a subject that
It's an
they
emotion.
need. Yeah.
It's an emotion. You know, with 2 minutes left, I love that you spoke about education in the school because, again, mental health is not just something that's experienced by people when they're like 70 and 80 and their life is just about to, be done. It starts with such a young age. And I'm so happy to hear that, what started off as a school assignment is possibly blossoming
Yeah.
into a curriculum. With us wrapping up, and you made the point of it not having to be invisible. What can we do as a community to better understand mental health?
Just keep it top of mind. Be aware, remember that everybody has a story, and just as much as yours is at the forefront of your mind
Yeah.
all the time, just let someone have their story and respect that and listen if they do choose to open up, and just, and share your own, because it's disclosure for disclosure. That's just how it works.
Oh. What I just got from this ending of this interview was that people think that pills fix everything when really empathy goes a really long way. So thank you so much, Annie, for being on A Voice for All. Thank you for sharing your brother's story and bringing it to such a place that I think a lot of people are going to benefit. If you are a person who needs help, do not be afraid to ask for help. And if you are a person who's being asked to help someone, do not be afraid to give that person the love they need. Sometimes that's all someone needs for things to feel a little bit more balanced in their life. I'll see you guys after the break. We have another story that focuses on mental health. Welcome back to Voice for All. I'm your host, Jamila Gamble. Thank you so much for tuning in. And like I said in the beginning of the show, we are focusing on mental health, aka invisible disabilities, tonight on A Voice for All. We've never really touched base on it, but I feel it's about time we shed light on a very important issue that's happening not only in our world, but in our community, in our workplace next door, in our families. It's happening everywhere. And I've brought on Lisa Clarke from Lala Wellness, who you are like just like this radiating positive ball. So I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Lisa, we spoke already, but guests don't know the whole history of our conversation.
Yeah.
When we first talked, you told me that it wasn't easy for you at first to talk about what you were experiencing. Can you share that piece with us?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's being able to open up about anything that feels less than awesome in your mind is hard. That's something you have to work on every single day.
Yeah.
And when you're growing up and you don't exactly understand what it is that's why your thoughts are the way that they are, or why you're feeling the way that you are, and you don't know how to put words to those feelings, then it's even harder to speak up about what it is that you're experiencing. Over time, once you're given tools and an awareness of what that is, it becomes a little bit easier, but then you need a whole lot of courage and a whole lot of bravery to speak up.
So before you found that courage and those tools, what was going on that made you just say, okay, I need to get some help?
Yeah, I think, well, in our conversations from before, I was talking about how my way of dealing with my thoughts and my feelings were to just push them down like they didn't exist. And I think I hit a point in my life where my body and my mind could no longer hold on to anything that I was suppressing. Much like when your body is tired, you get sick. When your mind gets tired, it kind of implodes.
Takes everything down.
It takes control and it forces you to listen. So I had what I call a bit of a breakdown. It wasn't a bit of it was a breakdown. In my postgrad, actually, which was not too far a way
Because
ago.
looking at you, and this is something very ignorant that people say, you don't look like
Yeah.
you are depressed or you're fighting demons.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to that type of comments?
Yeah, I think I reflected on that a lot because at the end of our conversation, that's what you said. I would never know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. You would never know what
Yeah.
someone is going through. You never know what someone's thoughts are, what their history is. I think that the best way that I can make a difference is by, yeah, I look happy and I look bubbly and I do have an energy that is bright. I can have an energy that is bright, but if I'm not open about those darker times,
Yeah.
then I'm not doing myself and the world a service.
So talk about opening up about those darker times because for some people it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Now every strategy is not going to work for people, but what's some of the ways that you turn to
Sure.
to get that confidence?
For sure. So I think in the beginning, like I said, my brain kind of took over, and it would be more of like an expressive outburst, something that I didn't have control over, and that really it had negative impacts on my
Right.
relationships, on my ability to work, because I didn't quite have control over how I was expressing myself. Then it turned into more of a, okay, how do I harness what's coming out of me? And for me, that looked like seeking help
Okay.
in a third party, in someone else that wasn't my friend or part of my
Right.
family, because I wasn't yet comfortable opening up to them, the people that I'm
Can-
closest
can-
to.
Can we talk about that for
Yeah,
a second?
for sure.
That's another hurdle. You think that, you're going through something and
Yeah.
you should be able to turn to those who know you best. But I kind of agree that I think I would feel way more comfortable opening up to someone who doesn't know my family history
Yep.
or has any kind of connection to me.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. I think for me, part of my my upbringing, I suppose, my family is wonderfully supportive. They struggle with their own darkness too.
Yeah.
And for me, from my personal experience, I was uncomfortable opening up to them because I didn't want to put anything else on them.
Right. So you're being mindful of what they were going
They're
through.
already dealing with so much. I didn't want to be a burden,
Right.
or I didn't want to be a failure, or not enough. And those are themes that came up a lot, and I still face.
I think we all do. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's something people don't understand, that
Yeah.
we're going to have dark days, no
Yep.
doubt.
Yeah.
That's just how the human brain works. Serotonin levels, cortisol levels, all that.
Yeah.
That's all a part
All
of the
the
game.
signs, yeah.
It's navigating your way out, which you did in a way. You had your dark days. You
Yep.
could have stayed in that dark shadow, if you want to
Yep.
say that. But then Lala Wellness came into play.
Yeah.
Like, how did that all come to be?
It's a winding journey. So like I said, I sought help from other people. So my journey started with a life coach, and I tried seeing psychologists, psychiatrists. I've tried everything when it comes to helping myself with my mental wellness. Yoga was something that really helped me, and it stuck with me that this practice is so much more than just a physical practice.
Absolutely.
It's something that I can really, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. I don't
Yeah.
even have to say it.
Yeah.
It's body, mind, and soul, right? It's the three most important parts of us that come together. I ended up becoming a yoga teacher after my practice really helped me, because I wanted to give back to the community that served me so much. And I
Beautiful.
wanted to be able to reach out to people who may have experiences like mine, so that they could then have a practice of their own to help them.
I love that. I love that you decide to take your strength and go, instead of keeping it all to myself,
Yeah.
let me help some other people.
Oh, for me, I mean, I could be well and I could be happy, and my dark days could be far fewer than my light and bright ones. But if the people in my life and in my community aren't feeling the same, then what's the point?
Wow.
I want to be able to share. I want everyone around me to feel good.
And I think when people are going through those hard moments,
Yeah.
we need a healthy energy to surround ourselves with. So I could totally see how people could just radiate
Yeah.
towards you and be like, come on, Lisa, give me some of that energy.
Yeah.
For people who are watching who are going through those dark days, what suggestions do you have for them to kind
Yeah.
of keep going?
That's a good question. I think that when it comes to self-care, you have to want it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to try
Very true.
700 different things if that's what it takes to find what works for you. So I had mentioned I sought help.
Mm-hmm.
I did yoga. I danced. I journaled. Like, I tried everything.
Yeah.
And some things didn't work for me, and they didn't help me break through that wall.
Mm-hmm.
But once I found the things that did,
Yeah.
now those are my things. That's my team. That's my strategy.
Perfect. I love
So
that.
my advice, I suppose, is love yourself enough to try. Just try as many
Yeah.
things until you find what works for you.
And then other people see that, you know, not you necessarily need to prove anything to them, but they're like, okay, I see Lisa's, you know, she's
Yeah.
trying. Maybe it's not as easy, but you know what?
Yeah.
I'm here for you, Lisa. I love
Yeah.
that you said take on that responsibility to make
Yep.
that effort, because yeah, if you want to see change, you got to put in a little bit of work.
The time you have to, and it's hard. And when
Mhm.
you're really kind of in that rut space,
Yeah.
the last thing you want to do is work on yourself.
Yes.
But
It's part
it
of the
starts
process.
with you.
Absolutely.
Always. Yeah.
With 2 minutes left,
Yeah.
what I would like for you to share is if we as a community are doing something that's so damaging to people who are going through those dark days,
Yeah.
what is it
Yeah.
and how can we stop that?
Okay. So
Big question.
yeah, but it's like in my gut.
Yeah.
I know the answer. For me, so my experience with mental illness is largely around anxiety and depression. If I'm in the middle of a panic attack, let's say, and someone is in my space and they're saying, just calm down, just relax. I'm like, you know what?
I can't.
I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
now I know what that means, and now I know how to do that because of yoga and through Lala Wellness. But if someone with mental illness or unrest doesn't know how to take a deep breath, and you're telling them to take a deep breath,
Yeah.
you're just adding to their stress,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So that's really what is kind of the seed of hope that I try to bring with Lala Wellness. Is
Plant it.
That's it. Teaching children specifically how to take a breath, a real breath, not an anxious breath, not a scared breath, but a breath for themselves, so that they can then teach that to their peers, teach that to their parents.
It passes along.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you see why I brought Lisa on the show? Do you see why? I want you to understand as the viewer that mental health is something we all experience. We experience it in different forms, some people greater than others. Sometimes it's a little bit of shadow, sometimes it's a complete darkness. But what's important to know is that there are community groups, there's people out there who are there for you. Maybe you don't have that supportive family or that supportive circle who has your back. That's okay. There are people out there like Lisa who could be there for you. And what we want you to realize is that you have the courage and the strength to get down that path of feeling way, way better. So Lisa, thank you so much for being on A Voice for All. I hope you guys enjoyed this show that focuses on mental health. Again, Lisa's information is below. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow me on Twitter at MissJanPCCS. I'm always here to help you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been another great episode of A Voice for All, and I'll catch you guys next time.